Now, with any good installation, the installer needs his installation manual. There's a lot of information in the manual that you need to refer to, such as the height of the rail and cap. And that's the next step in our installation. We're going to install the rail and cap. Now, this particular house has 9-foot ceilings, and so the customer wanted to take advantage of those high ceilings by putting in a tall unit. And with a taller unit, our full-length gables are 8 feet high. So we're going to install the rail and cap at this point, and I'm going to show you how to do it by yourself. Of course, it's much easier if you have some help. And it is more difficult when you're dealing with 8-foot gables in a 9-foot ceiling application, because everything you do, you have to climb up and down this ladder, as compared to a 7-foot gable application where you don't need the ladder, you can reach. But what we need to do is get all our tools ready. First of all, what I want to do is find all of my studs, and that's a very important part of the application. You need to make sure that the rail is securely fastened to the studs in behind the wall. And so we're going to find those studs. I find my mark, my height mark on the wall, and I'm just going to use this stud finder and come along and put some little marks. Basically, put those marks where the rail will cover it. And I'm just going to find a couple of studs to get myself started. Now, when you're doing that, the distance should be approximately 1.5 inches, which is the thickness of a stud. If it's thicker than that, it may be 2 studs put together, or it could be a pipe in behind the wall, which you need to be very careful and make sure that you're not drilling into a pipe. So this one's a little bit thicker than it should be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the next stud, and put a mark on. And then I'm going to confirm that those are studs by measuring. Now, this particular house, obviously it's built with 16-inch center studs, and so I'm going to just measure, and sure enough, 16 and 32. So I know that I'm on the studs. There's a proper way to hang this rail, of course, and you've probably seen that in the other training videos that we have, but there is an upside and a downside to this rail, and so you need to make sure that it's the right way around. This length is, we require a rail that's 103 3/4 inches long, and so of course that's longer than our 8-foot rail. So what I've done beforehand is I've measured where a stud is, found a stud, and I've split the rail right on that stud so that we have a secure fastening on either side of this rail. Now with my marks on the wall, I can see where the center is for each of these studs. Now I've marked that on my rail, and I'm going to just put these screws in my mouth so I can do this with one person, and I'm going to take the level and level off this rail and secure it to the wall. Now it's vitally important. I would say one of the most important tools that you can have is a very good level. Do not cheap out on the level. It's very critical, especially when upper cabinets, that they're perfectly level. Otherwise the doors will never line up. Okay, so with a couple of screws in there, that's not going anywhere. I'm just going to double check to make sure I didn't move anything, and that's perfect. And so now I'm just going to get some more screws in here. And because this is an application where we've got upper cabinets on this rail, I'm going to put 2 screws in each stud. Now I haven't measured out every single stud, but I know that it's 16-inch center and each of these holes are 1 inch apart. So I'm just going to count out 16 holes. And then if the builder put the studs in the right place, I should be able to find one. All right, now you'll notice that this last section is going to just land on the middle of the stud, and I planned it that way and pre-measured for that. So we should be able to fasten this one side and snug it up. And then I have a short piece that will now go on the end. Now with this short piece, the way that it lands before the big cabinet that's going to go on the end, there is no stud here. And so what I usually use is a gyprock anchor called an easy anchor. And I'll put a couple of those in. I usually put them 1 hole apart just to give it a little bit more strength. Knowing that I have a large cabinet here that's going to sit on the floor, I'm not too concerned about this because this upper cabinet will actually be screwed right into that 8-foot gable that's going to be there and give it lots of support. What I'm going to do is use these easy anchors, and I'm going to apply those right to the end of this rail, and I'm just going to mark where they go, and like I say, I'm going to put them just 1 hole apart, and it gives it a little bit more strength. Put the easy anchor in behind. That's the first one. And the second one. Okay. Running out of pocket space, but we'll find it. And now I can secure that rail back to the wall. Now in the corner, I'm going to use a little bit larger screw just so I can hit the stud in the corner. A lot of times builders will use scrap wood and things like that, so you've got to be able to try to find a firm stud or some backing behind there to make sure that that rail and cap isn't going to fall off. Now the cap does have a top and a bottom. The top has a bit sharper angle on it than the bottom. And so that sharper angle goes to the top of the rail. And you just set that rail or this cap on there. And it just goes on quite easily. With this installation, we have what's called a corner shelf unit. And with a corner shelf unit, you actually have a 6-inch deep gable that goes in the very corner. And so I'm going to show you how we would set that up for installation. Now since this area before the window casing is less than 4 feet, I need to have my 2-foot level instead of my 4-foot level. Now, when I'm installing this, this piece of rail to have this one gable on this side, and it'll make more sense to you once we get the gables in and start putting the shelving in. You'll understand what I'm doing at this point. But the depth of the gable is 6 inches. And this gable is going to mount to this rail that I've already applied on this wall. And then this railing cap will then come out from this gable, and the next end gable will hang on the end of this rail. So there's a a few measurements that I need to take. First, from this end wall, I need to come out the 6 inches. I know that this corner unit is a 2-foot unit, meaning from this back wall to the end of the shelf will be 2 feet, and then there will be another 3/4 inches for the gable that will sit on the end of the shelf. So this mark, at the 2-foot mark, I cannot go past with my rail and cap. Otherwise I'll end up taking it off and readjusting it. And so if I'm on that mark, and I shouldn't go past the 6-inch mark, and I'm not, so it looks like it's perfect size. I've already measured up my height mark for that. What I'm going to do is just take this, this cap off, just so that my height will be exactly the same as the other rail. Measure where my stud is. Okay. Now sometimes you need more than 2 hands sometimes, but we'll do our best. Okay. And now I'm just going to mark where my easy anchors are going to go. Again, I'm going to put 2 in, 1 hole apart. And since all the weight is on this side, there actually is no gable hanging on this side. This is firmly anchored. I'm going to put another screw in there in a moment, but I just need some easy anchors on this side. Because this screw is close to the end, I'm going to have to back this off a bit, slack, to get these easy anchors in place. Okay, so that's the first one. And get this second one started. Get that secured. Okay, and there we have it. So just put on the cap.